If you're managing multiple Airbnbs or even just one, well, you know that guest access can be one of your biggest headaches. And now in a world of hundreds of different smart locks, it's hard to know which one to choose. But my team and I have managed over 50,000 guests. We've literally tested dozens of different smart locks, and I have our recommendations for you. I'm going to walk you through exactly what to look for in a smart lock. And believe me, there are quite a few things that you need to keep an eye out for. We'll talk about how to seamlessly integrate them with Airbnb and your booking platforms, and also talk about one thing that most hosts overlook, but makes a big difference when it comes to your digital lock. Stay tuned. Let's dive into all of that. When it comes to digital locks and the ones that we need to be using with our short-term rental or Airbnb, there are so many options out there. It is literally overwhelming to jump on Amazon, type in digital lock, and just see pages and pages of locks. And the reality is that a lot of these are not very good, and most of them do not have the 8 essential features that you need with any digital lock for your short-term rental. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The first essential feature you need with your digital lock is Wi-Fi access. You need the ability to change codes online. Having a digital lock where you can program codes in it isn't good enough, because you're going to want to integrate this lock with Airbnb and your listing platform so it automatically creates codes for you. We'll get to that in a second. The second feature that you need is in case the internet goes out. Your lock needs a memory. So if you created a code for a guest sent out 2 weeks ago and your internet goes out, well, you need that code to be remembered in the lock. And so you want to make sure your digital lock has a memory. The third essential for your smart lock is just making sure that it's easy to use. There's a ton of digital locks out there that actually require you to download an app. We don't want to do that. We don't want to put any steps between our guests and checking into our property. And preferably, your digital locks can allow you to create the shortest code possible. Of course, it'll be a unique code, but a 4-digit code is the best way to go. The fourth essential is just making sure your lock is durable. There are literally hundreds of them out there, especially if you're near the ocean, you've got those salty breezes coming across, or if you're in snow country where it goes below 0 degrees, you've got to make sure your lock is durable. And we have our top 2 recommendations for you in just a moment. The fifth thing is when it comes to integration. So there's a lot of great digital locks out there that have the features we've talked about, but they don't actually integrate directly with Airbnb. And actually, you want to make sure that it doesn't just integrate with Airbnb, but it also integrates with VRBO and Booking.com. We're going to get to that in a second, but having that integration is the first step. Number 6, you want to make sure that you have an online dashboard where you can see your locks. You can see if the battery is going low. You can see who's used those codes to access your doors. Having that online dashboard really helps in a lot of different ways, and especially the more properties you have. The 7th essential is for any of you that have more than one lock on your property. Well, you want to make sure you create a very short, simple code for your guests, but that it also syncs to the different locks. Most lock companies will call this a common door, and you're basically just linking 2 locks together online. Again, this is through your dashboard. So if you create a code 007, that goes right to both locks, and your guests don't get stuck outside or have to remember 2 different codes. This also works really well for any of you that have maybe a smaller apartment building or a building that has a common shared door, because you don't want to give out a static code for this common area door so anyone can get into the building, but you also don't want to give your guests multiple codes so they got to remember 2 codes. So you want to make sure that your lock has the ability to sync codes. So when you have a new guest that makes a reservation, it creates that automatically for that common area door, but then also creates it for their individual apartment. Number 8, this one's really important. Having a battery reminder, both on the door itself and on your online dashboard, is going to be key to making sure that your guests don't show up and they can't get in. This makes it easier for your housekeepers to relay the information from you. The more obvious the battery indicator is, the better. So there are 8 essentials. One of the ones I mentioned has to do with integrating with Airbnb. Most locks actually are not going to integrate with Airbnb. And even if they do, they're very likely not going to integrate with VRBO or the other listing platforms where you definitely need to have your property listed. We have a couple options. Well, if you're only on Airbnb and your lock integrates with Airbnb, you're okay in the sense of the locks, but you need to get on the other listing platforms. And as soon as you do, you can use a property management software platform to integrate with those locks. Now, not all property management software platforms or PMS programs will allow you to integrate with locks, but the most popular ones these days have that functionality. Of course, it depends on the lock that you choose, right? But assuming you choose one of the two models that we're going to reference here in just a short minute, you should be in good shape. Now, there is another option. Let's say you're not using a property management software platform and you are on multiple listing sites like Booking.com and Airbnb, making sure that you have a code that can go out to any of those platforms that is unique for your guests and that is set up just for their reservation so it expires after they leave. Well, there's some other software that's popped up to help you do this. We use a program called Remote Lock. We've been using it for years. They have all of the dashboards and things that I've been talking about. They do charge you a per lock fee, but they make it really seamless. And if you're not using a property software platform that allows you to integrate the locks, well, you can integrate this with your property management software, and then it will do all that code disbursement for you. So I know that sounds a little complicated, but it really isn't. Most of these PMS programs have what they call a marketplace. You can simply go there, search for Remote Lock, you do a little connection, you set up all your locks on Remote Lock, but then they're programmed to go through your property management software. So no matter where you get a reservation, those codes are going to go out to all of your guests. Another one that I see at all the conferences is called Opertu. So check out either of those if you're still manually setting up all your codes, especially to go across the different platforms. I've got one last tip before I jump into my favorite lock recommendations, and that is that you can't rely just on your lock. As reliable as some of these locks are these days, sometimes it just doesn't work, or sometimes your guests just can't figure it out. They keep plugging the code in wrong. They're not hitting the hash sign or whatever it happens to be. There is a lot of issues with guests checking in and digital locks. So you've got to make sure that you have another way for them to get in. And that is a simple little lockbox that you can put somewhere near your entry doors. You don't need to give them the code to the lockbox, right? This is just for emergencies, but make sure you have a key in there. Make sure the key works, because a guest that can't get in your property, well, that is the ultimate fail. Okay, here we go. Our top recommendations after managing tens of thousands of guests. The number one lock that we recommend is the Slage OnCode, the Wi-Fi version, of course, that can connect online. It has a dashboard. It can connect to a lot of the property management programs out there. We found that it's very durable. It's easy to use. You don't have to download apps or anything like that. Now, they have a couple versions. They have the deadbolt version only, or if you're doing a renovation or something like that and you have a door that only has one hole, well, you can get one with the handle on it. They look sleek. They look modern. They come in multiple colors. They're available on Amazon. They're available in Home Depot or Lowe's or any of your local home improvement places. We've used a lot of these. I've personally purchased thousands of dollars of these, and this is our number one recommendation. The runner-up, number two, would be the August locks. Now, these locks do work well. They do integrate with a lot of platforms. The August lock is quite expensive. It's very comparable with the Slage lock. In fact, both of those are a bit on the higher end of the price scale. But again, you're going to be using this lock for years and years, and so you want to make sure you have a good one. And just think about it. If you have an issue with your lock or it doesn't connect and a guest comes in and they have a problem with it, you better believe they're going to be asking for a refund or they're going to be asking for some sort of discount. It's worth investing just a little bit more upfront. But if you are more budget conscious, there's another lock, the last lock that we'd recommend, and this is by TT Lock. So it is cheaper. Again, it's not our favorite recommendation, but it does have pretty good integration and it is easy for guests to use. Still got a few other additional tips for you, just a few other things to keep in mind. Even though a lot of these locks have the Wi-Fi dashboard and you can control them online, you do want to make sure that you're creating a unique code for each guest, but you don't necessarily want it to expire the minute their checkout happens. So if it's 3 p.m. and they're hauling a suitcase out to the car and they return back to the house at 3:02 p.m. to grab the next suitcase and the door's locked because you've got it set up for an auto lock function, well, you don't want that to happen. So leave a little bit of grace period when you're scheduling these locks. And most of the time, that's just a quick setting where you can say, we're going to schedule this unique code for whatever guest reservation comes in, but instead of it ending at 3 p.m. We're going to end it at 3:30 p.m. Remember that you can use your digital locks to assign codes for maintenance people, right? This is one of the really nice benefits of having the Wi-Fi and the online dashboard. If you've got to have an HVAC person come in there or your handyman needs to get in, well, you can create a real quick code for them. And you can also see when they actually entered in and how long they're there, right? If you have a unique code set up for a door, well, then all the history would be tied to that one code. You can see every time someone opens the door, every time someone unlocks it, and every time someone locks it. Another nice thing of having this history is that it also tells us when our guests check in for the first time. So make sure that your welcome message or your friendly follow-up that says, hey, John, just want to make sure you got in the property okay. Make sure that it doesn't go out before they actually check into the property, right? And this is one of the ways that you can verify that they've made it into the property. You can have your lock, depending on the version, send you a notification when that guest checks in for the first time. My last tip, and this is probably the most important one, just make sure that your door codes are as simple as possible. The fewer digits they are, the less digits a guest has to remember and the less chance that they're going to screw up when they plug it in. Because even though some of these locks are really, really easy to use, you would be surprised how many people still have trouble with them. So I hope those essentials give you some more insight into what you need to look for when you purchase your new lock. Consider all these tips and remember that even though you might have the best lock out there, you're still going to have some guests that are going to have trouble with entering the code or whatever it happens to be. There is quite often user error, so make sure you've got that backup in place and just make sure that you're there to help them get in if they need some help. Till next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.